An old woman is kicked out by her only son, the very son she raised alone after her husband died. He calls her a burden and tosses her into a nursing home. But what he didn't know was that she had been hiding $1.4 million in a secret trust, money she had earned silently over 40 years from a small business she built without telling anyone. She had planned to give it all to him, until that one betrayal changed everything. What she does next is something no one saw coming. Before starting the story, make sure to subscribe the channel so that you don't miss any update in future. She stood on the porch, her hands shaking as she held the small plastic bag that carried everything she now owned, 2 saris, her medicine, and a framed photo of her late husband. The door behind her slammed shut. Her son didn't even look back. "You're not my responsibility anymore," he said, his voice cold. "Go live wherever you want. I've done enough." The street was silent. No neighbors came out. No one said a word. Just the sound of her own heartbeat ringing in her ears. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just stood there, 68 years old, kicked out of the very house she had built with her bare hands and her broken back. A house where she had once rocked him to sleep, fed him with her own hands, sold her jewelry to buy his school books. And now this. But what her son didn't know was that she had been hiding something. Something big. Something that would change everything. The rickshaw driver didn't ask questions. He glanced at her through the mirror, saw her trembling hands, and silently started the engine. "Where to?" he finally asked. She opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Where could she go? The city had moved on. Friends were now strangers. The relatives she once helped had vanished like smoke. "Any shelter," she whispered. The driver nodded, no judgment in his eyes. As the rickshaw rattled through the city's chaos, her mind raced back in time. To the day she had made the decision. The decision to never tell anyone, not even her son, about the money. About the account she opened in secret. About the customers she quietly kept serving through word of mouth. Handmade saris. Vintage fabrics. Carefully crafted, every thread woven with patience and pain. For decades, she saved every rupee, every tip, every cash payment. And not once, did she ever touch that money for herself. It was for him. Always for him. Until today. The shelter was dimly lit, a chipped building with flickering tube lights and beds that creaked louder than the women sleeping in them. She sat by the window that night, watching the city lights blink like distant stars. The air smelled of talcum powder, burnt doll, and stories no one ever asked about. No one in that room knew her name. No one knew she once owned a small empire of silk, that her hands had been sought after by women across the city for bridal embroidery and timeless patterns. She was a ghost now. A ghost in a cotton sari, sipping watery chai from a cracked mug. Her son hadn't even checked if she had money. If only he knew. If only he knew there was an account, hidden in an old bank, under a name no one would suspect, where $1.4 million sat untouched. She used to smile, imagining his face when she'd finally surprise him. A new house. A car. A life with no rent, no loans, no struggle. She dreamed of handing it to him with trembling hands. But now those hands only trembled with rage. Morning came, but it didn't bring peace. Just another day she had to survive. She folded her blanket neatly, like she always had. Decades of discipline don't fade just because your world does. A volunteer offered her tea. She smiled politely, but her eyes were somewhere else, miles away, in a time when her home still had laughter. Her son used to run around in torn slippers, yelling that he wanted ice cream for breakfast. She used to scold him, then give in. Always gave in. She remembered pawning her bangles to buy him his first bicycle. That day he had called her the best mother in the world. Funny how those words mean nothing now. He had told her she was a burden, a mouth to feed, a space that could be rented out. And yet, even now, she didn't hate him. She hated herself for raising a boy who never learned how to love back. The pain wasn't just in the betrayal. It was in the silence after. The way he didn't flinch when she cried. The way his wife watched from the hallway, arms crossed, as if throwing her out was normal. It wasn't normal, but now maybe it was necessary. That afternoon, she stepped outside the shelter. No destination, no purpose. Just walking. Her sandals scraped against the pavement like old memories she couldn't shake off. The city had changed. Buildings taller, people colder. No one looked twice at an old woman clutching a cloth bag and lost thoughts. She passed the store where she once bought her son's school shoes. It was now a pizza chain. She stood there for a moment, remembering how he'd cried because he wanted the shoes with light-up soles. They cost too much, so she worked an extra weekend. Hemmed blouses till her fingers bled. He wore those shoes to school like a prince. And now that same prince had told her, "You've done enough. Go live your life. Go live your life." She almost laughed. What life? The one she sacrificed? The one she buried so he could have his? He didn't ask what she would eat, where she would sleep. He didn't even ask if she had enough money for a bus ride. But still, she walked. Because if she stopped now, she was afraid the weight of her love would crush her completely. That evening, she found a park bench beneath a dying tree. She sat down like someone who had nowhere left to be. Not because she was tired, but because the past was finally heavier than her body. A little girl nearby laughed, chasing pigeons. And for a moment, she smiled. Not because she was happy, but because she remembered how her son used to do the same thing. Barefoot, mud on his cheeks. He had her eyes back then, full of wonder. Now, his eyes were glass. Cold, calculating. The kind of eyes that look at you and see furniture, not family. She reached into her bag and pulled out a notebook, tattered, almost forgotten. Inside were names, old contacts, codes, bank details written in invisible ink. She hadn't touched this book in years. And yet now, in this moment of absolute rejection, she knew she had to protect what was hers. Not for him, not anymore, but for her. Because maybe it wasn't too late to rewrite the ending. The notebook trembled in her hands, not because of the cold, but because of the weight it carried. Names scratched in code, phone numbers that hadn't rung in years, bank account digits she never shared, not even with her husband. No one had ever known who she truly was before she became a mother. Before the kitchen walls, before the grocery lists and school pickups. She had a life, a job in a finance firm, discreet clients. Money moved in silence, and she was good at it. So good, in fact, that she became the keeper of secrets. People trusted her to hide what they couldn't declare. Offshore accounts, fake names, shadow money. She never touched a cent, but she kept the maps. And when her husband fell sick, she quietly started building her own. Not out of greed, out of fear. Fear that one day she'd be alone. Fear that came true. And now, while the world saw an old, tired woman, somewhere, buried in the numbers, was $1.4 million. Untouched, untold. And suddenly, she wasn't weak anymore. She was dangerous. She flipped to the final page of the notebook. A number was circled 3 times. No name, no label, just a number. Her fingers hovered over it. Calling it would change everything. But before she could decide, her phone buzzed. It was him. Her son. A message. Short. "If you left anything in the house, I threw it out." That was it. No apology. No second thoughts. Just finality. As if she were garbage. Her throat burned, but she didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, she smiled. Because now he had made his choice. And so would she. She stood up, brushed the dirt off her coat, slid the notebook back into her bag like a weapon, and walked straight toward the city. Not like a lost woman, but like a ghost resurrected. One who had buried her past long ago, and now was ready to dig it up. The city lights flickered as she walked into the night. Every step echoed like a heartbeat, steady, relentless. She wasn't just a mother abandoned. She was a woman reclaiming what was hers. Memories whispered behind every corner. The late nights, the sacrifices, the lies she never told. She knew what awaited her wasn't simple. There were risks, shadows that could swallow her whole. But for the first time in years, she felt alive. And dangerous. She reached a small cafe, discreet, tucked away from the city's chaos. The kind of place where secrets met in whispers. There, waiting at a corner table, was a man. Not a stranger. An ally from a past life she thought she'd buried forever. His eyes flicked up, recognizing her immediately. "I wondered how long it would take," he said, voice low. She slid into the seat, pulling out the notebook. "It's time," she whispered. And with those two words, the game began. The man's eyes never left hers, sharp and calculating. "The money isn't just sitting there," he said quietly. "It's protected. Locked behind layers you can't even imagine." She nodded, feeling the weight of every word. "I knew that, but it's the key to everything, my freedom, my future." He slid a small envelope across the table. "This will get you through the first door. After that, you're on your own." She opened it. Inside was a card, embossed with a symbol she recognized from years ago. A secret bank. A shadow account. The kind of place where money disappears without a trace. Her heart raced. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival. About proving she was more than the mistakes her son believed. About showing the world that, even when they kick you down, you can rise. Stronger. Smarter. Unstoppable. The night swallowed her as she stepped out of the cafe, clutching the card like a lifeline. Every breath she took was a reminder. This wasn't just a game. It was a war. She knew the people who controlled that money didn't play fair. Allies today, enemies tomorrow. She'd have to move fast. And trust even less. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. A single message. "Don't make a wrong move." Her heart skipped, but her face stayed calm. This was the world she had chosen. And she was ready to fight. Because sometimes, to survive, you have to become the shadow. Days blurred into nights as she raced against time, chasing whispers and shadows, piecing together the puzzle her son wanted buried. She met faces she'd never imagined. Some offering help, others hiding knives behind smiles. Every step forward was a gamble. But she played like a queen with nothing left to lose. The card led her to a small office in a forgotten part of town, where a locked safe waited quietly behind a faded painting. Her hands trembled as she entered the code. The same number circled in her notebook. Click. The door creaked open. Inside, stacks of envelopes, files, and a key to a new life. But just as relief began to wash over her, a sound froze her blood. Footsteps. Someone was coming, and they weren't friendly. Her breath caught in her throat as the footsteps grew louder, echoing through the empty room like a warning bell. Heart pounding, she grabbed the nearest envelope, shoving it into her coat as the door handle twisted slowly. The door creaked open, but it wasn't who she expected. Instead, a woman stepped inside, eyes cold and sharp. Holding a phone, already recording. "Thought you could sneak around without me knowing," she sneered. No escape. No backup. Just a game of survival where every move was watched, and every secret was a weapon. But she wasn't ready to fold, not yet. "You don't know who you're messing with," she said, voice steady. The fight was just beginning. The woman's smirk faltered, caught off guard by the fire burning in her eyes. "You think you're strong? You're just a desperate mother chasing ghosts." But she didn't flinch. Desperate? Maybe. But desperation can move mountains. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, charged with words unspoken and threats barely masked. For a moment, they just stared. Two forces clashing in a silent war. Then, without warning, the woman lunged, a sharp glare turning into a dangerous fight. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect, about proving she wouldn't back down. And in that dimly lit room, she found a strength she forgot she had. The scuffle ended as quickly as it began. The room heavy with silence and unspoken truths. She stood there, chest heaving, eyes blazing. No longer just a desperate woman, but a force to be reckoned with. The woman backed away, realizing this battle wasn't hers to win. "This isn't over," came the warning, sharp and cold. But she only smiled a slow, knowing smile. Because now she held the power, the key to the millions hidden just beyond reach. And more than that, she held her own story, one no one could silence. She was done hiding, and the world was about to hear her roar. Days turned into nights, but she didn't rest. Every move was calculated, every call a gamble. She dug deeper into the secret accounts, peeling back layers of lies and betrayal. The $1.4 million wasn't just money. It was a lifeline, a symbol of a hidden past her son desperately wanted to erase. But as she connected the dots, a chilling realization hit. She wasn't the only one chasing this treasure. Shadows from her past started to close in, reminding her that some secrets come with a price. And sometimes, paying that price means risking everything. The phone rang in the dead of night. A voice she hadn't heard in years. "You're playing a dangerous game," it warned. Her heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm not afraid anymore." The line went dead, leaving a silence heavier than any threat. She knew this wasn't just about money or family anymore. It was about survival. Every move she made was watched. Every secret could be her last. But giving up? That was never an option. The day came like a storm, fast, fierce, impossible to ignore. She walked into the courtroom, not as a victim, but as the woman who refused to be broken. Cameras flashed, whispers filled the air. And her son watched from the back, stunned. The $1.4 million? It wasn't just cash hidden away, it was justice waiting to be claimed. Evidence she uncovered. Truth she fought for. And a future she vowed to build. All on her terms. She wasn't just hiding money anymore. She was rewriting her story. And this time, nobody would kick her out of her own life. Sometimes, those who push you away don't see the real power you carry inside. This story reminds us that strength isn't just about money. It's about resilience, courage, and refusing to let others write your fate. No matter how dark things get, your comeback can be louder than any rejection.